Our final session. Good afternoon. Oh, I'm becoming the most discourteous, unthinking, unpolite. I need treatment. Very little progress will be made by you or anyone else on the spiritual path until you commence to understand the nature of the word consciousness. The entire message of the infinite way is based on that one word. Everything else that's taught in the infinite way or revealed or shown forth in the infinite way is just the unfolding or revelation of consciousness. Therefore, you will be playing around with effects unless you can give yourself to the study of the word consciousness. And while it may be a little help to look it up in a dictionary, and while it may be a little more help to read the passages in the infinite way writings on the subject of consciousness, I can tell you in advance that you will not get the final answer either from the dictionary or from the infinite way writings. The final answer on the subject of consciousness will have to come from within yourself. I can only be a guide, and the writings can only be a guide to get you back within yourself. And I will illustrate that for you by something that helped me to find myself, something that helped me to discover the secret of God. All spiritual literature and metaphysical literature says that God is love, God is intelligence, God is law, God is life, God is spirit, God is soul. There isn't a word of truth in that. And you can prove that for yourself. All of the synonyms for God testify only to the nature of God. They do not reveal God. If you say God is God, that doesn't tell you very much. But now say God is spirit and see if that tells you any more. Or say God is mind and see if that tells you any more. Or God is love. Does that tell you any more? And you'll find in the end it doesn't. But if you say the nature of God is love, now I commence to understand that love, that God shows himself or itself forth as love, as care, as protection. Yes, I can see that love is an attribute of God. God is intelligence. Well, I need only look around at roses coming from rose bushes, apples from apple trees, and so forth, and I can see that God is intelligence because there is a law of like begetting like. And an intelligence alone could have produced that. Therefore, I can see that God functions as intelligence. I can see that the nature of God is intelligence. That still hasn't told me what God is. It's just told me one of the characteristics or facets of God. God is spirit. Well, now I don't know what spirit is except this. I do know that spirit is incorporeal. It has no physical form. I know that it is incorporeal. It can't be seen, heard, tasted, touched, or smelled. Therefore, I know that the nature of God is incorporeality. It doesn't tell me any more about God except about the nature of God. But God is still a mystery to me. God is law? No. But God functions as law. Oh, yes. Certainly there are spiritual laws. There are the laws of nature, all of which are absolute. They can't be violated. You cannot violate H2O being water. You cannot violate 2 times 2 being 4. Certainly God functions as law, but that hasn't told me anything about God yet. It's told me about the nature of God, the function of God, the attributes of God. God is still hidden from me. I still haven't gotten close to God. Now, what is God? Well, it just seems that the more words I project up into my mind, the more I discover that it isn't God, that it is just either a word about God, a thought about God, a theory about God, an unfoldment of God, an attribute of God. I'm still up here in the realm of words. I'm still up here in the realm of thoughts. I'm still up here in the realm of opinions. I still haven't reached the realm of God. Now, supposing that I take a thesaurus and discover 20 more words about God, I will still have 20 more words. I will still be no nearer God. The more words I find to project up here, the more I discover that I'm learning more about God. I'm learning nothing of God. And that brings up a question. What did I just say? I am not learning of God. Oh, there is an I and a God. Well, I just said so, didn't I? I just said I am not learning God, or I am not meeting God, or I am not finding God. What did I say? I said I and God. Well, that's a mystery. That's a mystery. There is an I and there is a God. Is that true? No. It thunders back inside of you. No. There cannot be an I and God. Oh, but I've been building a God. Haven't I been building life, truth, love, principle, soul, spirit, all the rest of these synonyms out here? Yes, I've been creating a God. I'm no different than the old pagans who had God up on a cloud with a big white beard. They invented their God, and I'm inventing a God. Who is this I that's doing all this inventing of God? Now you have the answer, don't you? I is God. There are not two. So is there any other name for God but I? And do you not see that when this reveals itself to you, that something warm and joyous and sacred has taken place within you? And why you must go and tell no man what things ye have seen? You have been given, you've had revealed to you the pearl of great price. What are you going to do? Throw it out there for the lovers of baubles to trample on it? Or to put it in a 10-cent mounting and wear it? No, you have the pearl. It has been revealed to you. I is God. I, the knower, is also the known. And the only reason I can know God is because I is God. Otherwise, there would be an I knowing something objective or subjective to itself instead of I knowing itself. When I know myself, I know God. O man, knowest thyself, and thou wilt discover God. All the way back to the Greeks, which came up from Egypt. Discover thyself. Realize thyself. Why do you think there are teachings called self-realization? Realize yourself. And when you realize yourself, you will not be egotistical. You will have recognized that the self of me is the self of you, because God is self. Therefore, I am self, and self is I, and there is no way for I to project a God out here. I is the God. Now look what this does to you. It immediately drops from you all fear. Because if the I of yourself is God, what is there external to you or internal to you that can thwart God's will, or destroy God's life, or destroy God's mind, or destroy God's body? The only question is whether or not I am that I. That's the only question that must be settled in your consciousness. Am I that I, or is there another? I know not any other. Is there an I other than I? Is there a God up in the sky? Is there a God sitting on a cloud? Is there a God floating in the air? Is there a God walking around on earth? I know not any. I have never seen any, heard of any. The only God that has ever revealed itself to me has been through the still small voice which is uttered within me. Therefore, the source of the still small voice must be within me, but there is nothing within me but me. I am the only being that I am. I am the only being that I am. Therefore, if I hear a still small voice, it must come from within the depths of myself. It can't be what is called a human self, because everybody would have it. It must come from that self of me which I recognize to be divine. Now, if I and my Father are one, I must be that one. And therefore, I am never knowing God unless I know I, in the midst of me, am He. I am. Not the bold, brazen I man that wants to walk up and down the street saying, I am God. But the I man that sacredly and secretly has received an inner voice saying, be still. Be still. Joel, be still, because I is God. Joel, be still. Don't you know I, in the midst of you, is God? I will never leave thee. I am come that you might have life and that you might have it more abundantly. Joel, be still. I am in the midst of you. I am your being. I am your bread, your meat, your wine, your water. Be still, Joel. Let that mind be still. Let those fears be still. I. There are no powers external. There is no God in words or thoughts. I am God. This is the pearl that must be hid so that it isn't trampled upon. But it is a pearl that must be shared. But it must only be shared with those who sacredly can receive it and be trusted with it, because when the human mind receives it, if it's not prepared, it wants to go right out and use it to conquer the world. Oh, I have God, or I am God. Now I'll go out and be President of the United States. Not once, twice, 3 times, 4 times, 5 times. No limit, I am God. I want 1 million. I want 10 million, 100. Why not? I am God. Do you see that? But the soul that is prepared said, oh, I am God. I don't need anything. I don't want anything. I have all that I need. I have all that I want. And the world's baubles are of no interest to me. No, you can't be God and still be interested in name or fame or fortune. These will come to you, but by that time you won't value them. You won't think of them as anything. You'll know that you of your own self didn't even attain them. It's strange, but there are ancient wisdoms to the effect that the moment you stop chasing God, God chases you. The moment you stop chasing supply, supply chases you. The moment you stop chasing companionship, companionship chases you. All you have to do is be still and let it catch up to you. And the reason is that it's in the midst of you. And you're running around out here, physically or mentally, trying to find something that's buried in here. When you give up the search, just as, well, you know the stories of the Holy Grail. No one ever found the Holy Grail until the search was all over and they came home whipped. And there it was. No more money left, no more fine clothes, no more armor, no more. Just a beaten soul. And there he looks up and there it is, hanging in a tree. So it is with everyone. Why can't you find God? How can you find yourself unless you sit down and get quiet? How can you find yourself while you're searching in your mind, or in holy temples, or in holy cities? How can you find what you are? And if you go back to the book, The Infinite Way, you'll discover it. That which I am seeking, I am. Now, I don't know where those words came from. When I first used them, I put quotation marks around them, feeling sure that I must have read them somewhere. It didn't seem that they'd come out of my own soul. That which I am seeking, I am. But since then, with all of my reading, I haven't come upon that passage, so I don't have any more quotation marks around it. But if I have plagiarized it from anyone, I apologize now. But it's truth. That which I am seeking, I am. I will never realize this until I stop the search. Become still and know that I am God. And rest in it. Rest in it. And then not look to see what I can do with that knowledge, or what I can get with that knowledge, or what I can be with that knowledge. Be satisfied. Be satisfied. I have found the pearl of great price, and I'm never going to show it to anyone but a connoisseur of pearls. I have found the great secret of God, but I am not going to share it with anyone except those who come to me full of the same spirit, full of that same desire to know. How do I know that they are ready? Well, When people spend time, effort, money, you know right well they're serious. You know that they're on the path. They may be taking wrong steps here and there, but you know that in back of it nobody is giving very much time, effort, or money, except to something that is very real to them, something they really want, and then you begin to share with them and take them step by step until eventually you get all through with talking about the presence within and the presence without, and you commence to reveal, knowest thou not, I am that presence, I am that Spirit, I am that Son of God, I am that Christ. We won't speak this way to our students, to your students, or your patients, or your friends. We will still use the language of, I can do all things through Christ that dwelleth in me. I live, yet not I. Christ liveth my life. There is a presence within me that goes out to make the crooked places straight. We will still talk that language, but when we are doing it, we will know that it is all true, but there's just one little thing that we won't say. I am that presence. I am that Spirit. I and my Father are one, and I am that one. And now you will understand the meaning of one of the deep passages of Scripture. He hangeth the earth on nothing. Now you will never have to search around in your mind for a truth, for any reason. Why? I am the truth. Then all you have to do is rest. Just rest. And you'll find that God is in action. The longer you keep searching around for a truth, the longer you're searching for the Holy Grail. And you won't find it until you've come to a place of nothingness. Now you'll know why you can heal. It doesn't require something to heal with. It is not what you know that heals, it's what you are that heals. What are you? I am with you. You discovered this week that you are not in your body. Then where are you? Well, you know now that you are omnipresence. But before this, you know what you said? God is omnipresence. Well, now what were you? There it is again. We have a God and a you. Now you will know I am omnipresence, and therefore I am where you are. Wherever you are, out in the ocean in a boat, in the desert lost, I am there. I am where you are. Do you see what has happened in this week's class? Step by step, you've come to drop the word God for the word I. Because when you started in this class, there was an I and a God. And there was I searching for God. I searching for truth. But you see, I is infinite. I is omniscience. In the beginning we said God is omniscience. What good is that to me? It reminds me of many, many years ago, I used to hear metaphysical students say, oh, you know, there are no accidents in divine mind. Being a youngster, I would say, what good does that do me if there are accidents on earth? Yes, but if divine mind is matter, I'm saved because there's no accidents in matter. Because mind and matter is one. If you are going to have no accidents in divine mind, but you're going to have them on earth, I'm afraid you're still going to have accidents for a while. It is only when you make divine mind and earth one. Or you might say, oh, nothing that enters the Christ consciousness can defile or make alive. Now you tell me what good that is to you. If you have a consciousness other than Christ consciousness. Because if you have, something can enter your consciousness that defileth or maketh alive. But the moment you acknowledge I and my Father are one, the mind that was in Christ Jesus is my mind, nothing can enter my mind that defileth or maketh alive. Nothing can enter my consciousness that defileth or maketh alive. Now, having spoken so at length on the subject of I, let us carry it further. How? What am I made of? What is it that constitutes the I that I am? And you will quickly in your meditations perceive that you couldn't know anything without being conscious. And you couldn't be conscious if you weren't consciousness. And so you will find that I am consciousness, or consciousness is what I am. Now, while you'll read this in a book, you'll see this, you'll hear this on tape, it will only mean something to you when you have the realization of it. You must realize that you wouldn't even be hearing a word I'm saying if it weren't for your consciousness, or the consciousness which you are. But on the other hand, supposing you did hear it, what good would it do you if you didn't understand it? Then understanding must be a part of the consciousness which you are. But even if you could understand it intellectually and you couldn't spiritually discern it, what good would it do to you or be to you? None. Therefore, spiritual discernment must be a faculty of consciousness. You are consciousness, therefore you have the faculty of hearing, of seeing, tasting, touching, smelling. Do you know, we speak of the five senses. Actually, we should always refer to them as the five physical senses. Why? There is only one sense, and that one is consciousness. I am conscious of you because I see you. Therefore, I am conscious of you through sight. You are conscious of me both through sight and hearing. We could be conscious of each other through touch, taste, or smell. But it would only be being conscious of. So, whether I am conscious of you through seeing you, hearing you, tasting, touching, or smelling you, I'm really saying I am conscious of you. And you already know that there are those who are deaf and blind who still are conscious of you. Therefore, they have an activity of consciousness separate and apart from sight or sound. The whole secret is that I am consciousness. Consciousness is what I am. And because I and the Father are one, it is divine consciousness that I am, spiritual consciousness that I am. I only lower that in the degree that I'm willing to entertain both good and evil. Then I lower my consciousness to a lower level than the divine. I can lower it. If I want to accept mental powers, I can lower my consciousness from the divine to the mental. If I want to lower it still further, I can accept material and mental powers. Then I've lowered it way down into mortality. But if I wish to maintain myself as spiritual consciousness individualized, I must hold myself at the level of no power. I do not exercise any powers, and no one exercises any powers over me. I am being. I am consciousness. I am spirit. I am omniscience. I am omnipresence. I am omnipotence. But I don't have to exercise powers. I am powers. But powers that do not function as power. Just the power of being. I have always said this for more than 30 years. The greatest spiritual wisdom on earth was spoken by Popeye the Sailor. He had it all. I am what I am. And that's what I am. And that's what we can say. I am what I am. I must not try to be something other than I am. When I try to be better than I am, I'm hypocritical. And when I'm less than what I am, I'm just a dumb fool. But I must be what I am. And if I realize that I am what I am, I will be showing forth the I that I am, the divine qualities and nature that I am. Oh, sometimes humanhood will get in the way and hide it for a little while. That doesn't last long. That's like the Master in the Garden of Gethsemane. I think he was a little bit fretful about his disciples that couldn't stay awake with him, couldn't pray with him. Those are human tendencies that crop up once in a while. Since the I that I am is God, life eternal, the same yesterday, today, and forever, is age the belief in two powers. Of course, it's not only the belief in two powers, it's the belief in two selfhoods. If you mean it, that I am the I am that I am, and that I am is God, there can be no question of age, because I am immortality. I am from everlasting to everlasting. And there is no age, there is only the belief of age, and the belief of age can only operate as long as I believe that I am human, that there is an I and a God. Now, if you go back to the original book, The Infinite Way, you will discover that the infinite way is based on two words: as and is. God is manifest as individual being, and I am that being. God is. I am. This is one. God is manifested as individual being. And this being, I am. And so you don't see, we don't have God and man. We have God expressed as individual being, but still God, still I. For I the Father and I the Son are one, and all that I the Father is, I the Son am. Yes, if we understood this, age would be removed from the human scene, and in some measure, age is being removed from the human scene. And if you have the opportunity of knowing some of the people in the metaphysical and spiritual world, you will discover that at 70, 75, 80, 85, 90, and on up to 100, they are showing forth less and less and less signs of what the world calls age. And you will find this primarily among those who are in some degree spiritually attuned. Not that there aren't humans without a trace of spiritual experience living to be 80, 90, or 100. There are. But they are living purely as physical manifestations. I think there is a photograph in today's paper of someone who has achieved 90 years of age and is asked about it, and he said, oh, it's just a freak of nature. He knows that it is. it's a freak of nature. That's all. And there is nothing of God being about it. It's just a freak of nature. It is when you are consciously attuned to the realization of your true identity, and you know that I is God, then you should begin to shed some of the manifestations of age. I must take that up with myself sometime. If we are human beings and subject to material laws until the presence of God is manifest in us through realization, what about animals? Well, and nature. I've brought that out, haven't I? That as we partake of the nature of God, so does everything within range of our consciousness take on that same nature, just in this same way. Now, there has only been one spiritual teacher from the beginning of time. The original spiritual teacher whose identity had its origin in I, manifested, expressed itself on earth, and the first name given to that manifestation, that divine incarnation, was Krishna. And Krishna is the same word in Sanskrit that Christ is in Greek. Krishna and Christ. This is the first teacher manifested as Krishna or Christ. This goes back into antiquity, before there are any written records even on stone or papyrus. Now, this teacher became the teacher of students, and the consciousness of that teacher in time became the consciousness of at least some, or at least one of the students. The full and complete consciousness which I am became the consciousness of an individual identified as a teacher, in turn became the consciousness of one identified as a student, and thereby became the teacher. And so the teacher has gone down through the ages as the consciousness, as God consciousness incarnated on earth, revealed and imparted to another to become their consciousness, to become revealed and imparted as their consciousness, and so on down the long line of Lao Tzu's, Buddha's, Jesus's, John, Paul, and all who have come down through the ages. They all had that same mind. It was the same mind that appeared on earth thousands of years ago, individually manifested as the original teacher, and it has been that same mind that has been going down from teacher to teacher, teacher to teacher, imparted from one to another, revealed to and imparted from one to another, until we come to the end of time. What is meant by the end of time? It means the end of human consciousness, until every individual on the face of the globe will have no consciousness but the consciousness of the teacher. When the consciousness of the teacher and the consciousness of the student will become one. When the consciousness of the parent is Christ consciousness, the consciousness of their children will be Christ consciousness, and there will be no more mortal children. All children will be born divine. There will be no children to chastise and to punish. All children will be here for instruction. But the consciousness of the student cannot rise higher than the consciousness of their teacher. And the teacher cannot impart anything higher than the consciousness he attains, or she. The parent cannot impart to the child any consciousness higher than their own. And they will not impart any less than their own. You have had this experience, I'm sure, because I have had it. In school, with more than a half a century gone by since I was in school, I have the keenest, clearest recollection of 3 of my school teachers. I know them by name. Their name has never at any time gone out of my memory. And why? They imparted themselves to me. They made their consciousness my consciousness. Whatever they had in their storehouse, in their consciousness, they gave me. And it is what those 3 teachers gave me that has been the tools that I have been able to use to chisel out whatever kind of a life I have. I know that behind that is divine consciousness, but I also know that divine consciousness has to be manifested as individual consciousness. And therefore, out of dozens and dozens, probably scores of teachers, of whom I do not know the name of a one, only these 3 have never left me at any time in my life. I can see them before me now. I know their names, and I have never known anything less than fullest gratitude to them. Now, they must have imparted themselves, their consciousness, their wisdom, their love to me. That is embodied as my consciousness. So it is, then. A spiritual teacher cannot impart anything higher than his own consciousness or hers. But if the teacher has come into the realization of I, they then have the full awakening to give the student. But they only have that awareness of I when a tremendous amount of self has disappeared in the nature of self-interest, selfishness, limitation, all of the qualities I have heretofore described. Because the I can know no such thing. The I only wants every individual to be that full and complete I. The I that I am wants that everybody, east and west, north and south, up and down, shall be of that same name and nature and same full quality and quantity. As a matter of fact, until that day dawns, there cannot be peace on earth. There can only be peace when I want for you what I want for myself. When I give you the same freedom that I hold to myself. We have that manifested in the infinite way. In this, that we have no rules, no regulations, no laws. We have no way of punishing anyone or excommunicating anyone. We put no limitations on anyone. Why? Well, I know there's an element of danger in it. Some people that get too much freedom ride themselves right into hell with it. But I personally am perfectly willing for them to do it and wouldn't stop them. If I had to make a law that restricted our students, I would give up the work. Because there are enough who know how to take freedom, liberty, and carry themselves to heaven with it, so that if there are a few stupid enough to want to destroy themselves, I'd rather they do it and leave the rest of our people free, rather than bind our good souls to save a few that aren't ready to be saved. Seems like I'm kind of heartless, and I am. I am. I have a terrible jealousy for freedom, a passion, if you will, for man's freedom. And I want him to be free to go to heaven or to go to hell, whichever his nature wants to take him. But let him be free to do it. I don't say that the world mustn't have laws and police departments and probably armies and navies for a while. That's the sad part of the world. I say that infinite way students do not need it, and the few who prove that they do need it, the sooner they find it out, the better. But to save them, I am never going to put a law or rule in the infinite way that will limit those who are ready to accept their freedom. And that is why I'm saying to you now, as long as you have an eye seeking God, you have not come home. Only when you realize I is God, are you at home in Him. Are you at peace? For when I and the Father are one, I have nothing to be unpeaceful about. I have nothing to fear and no one to fear. I have nothing to hate, nothing to resent. Neither life nor death can separate me from the love of God. And I know that in giving this pearl to you, it may be that a few who hear it will misuse it and destroy themselves. They won't destroy us. They won't destroy the world. They will destroy themselves. And if they must, I'm willing, for the sake of having the rest of you completely free, spiritually free, in the realization of the great truth that Moses veiled from his people, that the Master was crucified for revealing to his people. I and my Father are one. Be assured of that, and be assured that you can within yourself declare that. All that the Father hath is mine, and the I that is within me is come, that I might have life, and that I might have it more abundantly. And I do not have to use truth to attain anything. I must abide in truth. Abide in the center of my being, in quietness and in stillness. In quietness and in confidence shall be my strength. In quietness, in stillness. Be still, be still, be still, and know that I am God, and there's nothing else to know, and there's nothing else to do. Be at peace, it is I. Be at peace, it is I, and rest. And then in 10 minutes, 15 minutes, an hour, when you have something to do, get up and do it. And it makes no difference whether it's washing dishes, making beds, going out into the business world, whatever it is, do it. And then when you can, return and be at peace within me. Find me within you. Find that I am within you. Find the I am that you are. Find that you are I. If divine grace has given you the wisdom to accept this, and nothing can give it to you but divine grace, if divine grace has given you the wisdom to accept this, accept it sacredly and accept it secretly. Don't mouth it. Don't let anyone know you know it. It is only what the Father seeth in secret that he rewardeth openly. The secrets that you keep locked up within your own being. And you see, my imparting them to you is going to result in no loss to me, for only one reason. I am you, and I know it. We are one. I have covered this question of identity in this last 15 minutes. There never can be a loss of identity, well, as I revealed to you about sleep. I still have my identity when I'm sleeping. I will still have my identity when I shed this physical sense of body. I have had this same identity through at least 15 centuries that I know about. Probably more than 20 centuries. The same identity. I have been the same person. I have had different forms, but I have always been me. The same me. And therefore, I know from experience there is no loss of identity. I may express myself in one language today and in another one tomorrow. I remember, in fact, one time when, in this lifetime, when I was in Europe on business for a couple of years and spent about a year in Germany and returned to the States, and I was thinking in German. And if you spoke to me in English, I first had to translate it to myself in German and then back into English. But you see, it was still the same me, speaking another language, thinking in another language, but it was still me. And so I know that I can go on and on and on in as many languages as I may be able to learn, but I would still be me. I could live in as many centuries as centuries roll by, and I would still be me. Some of you, like myself, have lived in the 19th century and are living in the 20th century, but it's still us. We are still our own individual being. And remember, in the 21st century, we will still maintain our own identity, and the reason is God is my identity. Infinite being is my identity. And that identity is individualized as me permanently. Thank you. Thank you.